If you're a custodial supervisor at a local high school, you know that cleanliness is key, and that the best place to get cleaning supplies is from Grainger. Grainger helps you stay fully stocked on the products you trust, from paper towels and disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Plus, you can rely on Grainger for easy reordering, so you never run out of what you need. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams Super Sale and get 40% off paints and stains September 19th through the 24th. With prices starting at $29.39, it's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Whether you're looking to revamp your interior or exterior, we have you covered with bold hues, soothing neutrals, and everything in between. Visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store or shop the sale online. Delivery available on qualifying orders. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
This is the story of the one. As a custodial supervisor at a high school, he knows that during cold and flu season, germs spread fast. It's why he partners with Grainger to stay fully stocked on the products and supplies he needs, from tissues to disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Also that he can help students, staff, and teachers stay healthy and focused. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome to Rankin Bass, an offhanded joke that became a short-lived podcast. I'm your host, Mike White. Joining me is the snow miser, Chris Dashew.
Hi there. You should have named yourself the head elf, Mike White. Come on, you're going to give us all names. You got to be the head elf, Mike White.
Also along for the ride is heat miser, Richard Haddam.
Oh, I think I've been promoted to heat miser I thought I was snow miser, but maybe I kind of go back and forth.
A little AC/DC is what you mean?
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
Well, I was trying to get all ready with my snow miser voice. I was going to go, why, thank you, Chris. Thanks, Mike. But now I'm worried I sound too much like Charlie in the Box. Nobody wants a Charlie in the Box.
Or a train with square wheels.
Oh, my God. Oh, Lord. I'm looking forward to this so much. You guys have no idea.
On this podcast, we are discussing the works of Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass, specifically some of their stop-motion and animated Christmas work. On this episode, we are talking about Rudolph. We're doing a Rudolph double feature, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer from 1964 and Rudolph's Shiny New Year from 1976. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, a perennial favorite, hosted by Burl Ives as Sam the Snowman. And I have to say, watching it again recently, this is a version that I have never seen before. There are moments in here that are completely new for me, such as Yukon Cornelius looking for a peppermint mine. I always thought he was tasting gold and silver on his little pickaxe.
I'm Yukon Cornelius! Oh, my God. Yes. Yukon Cornelius is the finest character ever put to stop-motion animation, sir.
I do love him.
Him licking his pickaxe is the greatest imagery known to me. Him just licking his pickaxe is perfect.
Well, Mike, you really hit on like a medium dive in terms of the secrets that the actual uncut version hold. When we watched these as kids, we just watched them once a year, and that's all we got. And once it was over, it was over. But then when DVDs came out, suddenly a lot of mysteries got unearthed and solved in the exact same moment.
A lot of them got unearthed and solved, but also there are some other strange things that we'll talk about hopefully a little bit more when we talk about The Year Without a Santa Claus. But I was very glad to rewatch this again. This one, even though it feels like it's one of the longer ones, it passes so quickly and it just keeps my attention so much. And there's so many good songs. I mean, these are musicals, and I have to say pretty much every song hits, especially the Misfits song for me. And by that, I don't mean like Glenn Danzig and his band. I'm talking about the song about Misfits.
When I think of these Rankin and Bass Christmas specials, if I'm thinking of one just off the top of my head, it's this one. It's I would say Frosty the Snowman, but it's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, right? I mean, it has, Hermie, the elf who dreams of doing more than being an elf. It has Burl Ives. It has Rudolph. It does have Bumble, the abominable snowman. Like, it has everything that I always remember from Rankin and Bass, and I always assume that they're in different movies, but most of it, I mean, except for Frost Miser and or Snow Miser and Heat Miser, which aren't in this one, everything in this one is pretty much the most iconic stuff that you get from these Rankin and Bass movies.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. I think when people think of it, they think of Rudolph and almost everything in it, and then they think of Snow Miser and Heat Miser, which then gets confusing because sometimes it's hard to remember which one they're in. They're not in Rudolph, but it's like, oh, wait a second, they're in one of those other ones, but you'll be halfway through before you realize, oh, shit, this isn't the one with Heat Miser. What am I doing here?
We should talk a little bit about Rudolph himself, that Rudolph is an addition to the reindeer pack that came about sometime in the 1930s, I think it was, or early 1940s, where he is a creation of a writer named Robert L. May, who's actually a Jewish fellow who was working at Montgomery Ward, and his boss told him that he should write a book, a cheery animal tale for Christmas. And that's how Rudolph came about, but really was much more popularized when his brother-in-law, Johnny Marks, wrote the song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and it was recorded by Gene Autry. And that's why we know Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer these days is because of that song, and then now because of the Rankin Bass special.
See, Johnny Marks wrote...
So they were...
Go ahead, Richard.
I was just going to say, I had no idea Johnny Marks was Robert May's brother-in-law.
Correct.
So there was like did they work on this together? It's like, hey, you know what? I've been assigned. I write this thing about a Christmas animal, and I've come up with this thing, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And then, I mean, it wasn't coincidental. He must have gone right to his brother-in-law and said, okay, now let's do the song, right? Do we know?
I don't know, but
there was a 10-year span in between.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mike.
Oh, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Yeah, I think this book existed as a promotional thing for Montgomery Ward first, and then I don't know if May brought it to Marks and said, hey, write a song about this, or if Marks was just like, I could write a song about this book and create this song that we all know now.
It's the former, or it's the latter, not the former. It was just, I think he just saw it as an opportunity to write a song. I mean, I couldn't find any information saying they worked together specifically due to there being a 10-year gap in between the release of the book and the release of the song. And then there's almost a 20-year gap in between the release of the song and the release of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Lowe's knows how to help make your home holiday ready for less. Get Select Style Selections vinyl flooring for just $1.99 per square foot and have it installed before the festivities begin. Our team can help you every step of the way. See a Lowe's Red Vest associate or visit Lowe's.com/holiday install to get started. Lowe's, we help, you save. Basic install only. Date restrictions apply. Subject to availability. Installed by independent contractors. See associate for details. Contiguous U.S. only.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/day to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/day for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
Near the TV special, which is even, I mean, if you think about it, it's this constant building on this one idea, and now it's to the point where it's almost, synonymous with Christmas, which I do find interesting because you think of Rudolph, and Rudolph was a literal promotional creation, an advertising tool that was created.
Well, it's like how we know Santa Claus these days in his garb, that red suit with the white trim and the black belt and all that. That was from an advertisement that Coca-Cola put out. That image that we have of Santa Claus was not the image that was around before Coca-Cola commissioned whoever that artist was to make that painting, and that's why we know Santa Claus. It's weird. It's almost like Christmas is informed by businesses in order to sell products.
It's almost like that's what Christmas is. But, I mean, look, let's not fall too much into cynicism on this podcast. But at the same time, I don't think there's any way we can't address what we've already addressed, which is this Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer TV special. I wouldn't say all of them, but a fair number of them feel, especially for when they came out, I'm sure, highly polished, well-produced advertisements that exist to sell ad space in between the TV special, right?
I won't disagree.
Well, yes. I mean, yes.
That's hyper-cynical, I'm sorry, but...
But when this stuff gets overlaid with your childhood memories, they become indistinguishable. Like, when you're a child, even when you're an adult, it's like, yes, there's going to be a certain amount of money spending during Christmas, and you're going to have to buy stuff, but it's closely related, at least for me, with all of the fun stuff and all the magical stuff. So it's kind of okay. I mean, look, a big subplot in the special we're talking about is all about the distribution of the toys and which toys are valued above other toys. And yet even in that, they find an emotional way to characterize the relationship between a toy and a child that is sort of like the Toy Story precursor. But it makes sense because it's like, yeah, when you're a kid, that stuff is important and you do get attached to these things.
Well, and again, like I was saying before, for me, the iconic nature of that Rudolph. I mean, when you think of Rudolph, and I would say pretty much anyone who has grown up in kind of quote unquote America or the United States of America, because I was actually talking with a friend of mine who lives overseas, and he lives in the UK, and he had heard of these specials, but he had never seen them. And I found that infinitely amusing because as someone who grew up in the United States, if you celebrate Christmas, and it's not if you're Christian, I mean, a lot of folks who aren't Christian celebrate Christmas, at least they celebrate the holiday season. If you think of Rudolph, you think of this Rudolph puppet. Uh-huh. That's what you think of when you think of Rudolph. There's almost nothing else that's like a unifying kind of singular vision of the character for Rudolph is really this Rudolph puppet and this performance by Billy Richards as Rudolph. And I mean, again, as far as the iconic nature and the quality of this special, it really hinges on the performance of the Rudolph character.
And it's a great performance because it's so endearing.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that voice, even the voice, which I believe, what is the name of the actress who does it?
Billy Richards.
Billy Richards.
Thank you. It's like that's almost as indistinguishable. No one really, it's hard to do an impression of that voice. If God knows I've tried, but it's so like reassuring and and you immediately are on the side of the reindeer, as opposed to Donner, the coach. It is Donner, isn't it? Who's the guy going, all right, kids, all right, there you go, line up. All right, we're going to see you can jump the highest.
I think it might be
your soul as the voice of.
No, Donner is the dad who's really embarrassed about Rudolph being a red-nosed reindeer. You freak!
Oh, right.
Yeah, I think Comet is the coach, which is smart using the other reindeer in there.
Yeah, I honestly forgot that Donner was Rudolph's father.
And really, this whole show also appeals to children because of this I don't feel at home in this world kind of thing. I'm sure that even the most well-adjusted child always feels a little bit like an outsider just because they don't always necessarily fit in. And so this whole thing of Rudolph and Hermie, I swear they call him Herbie the first time, but Hermie, this couple of misfits thing and the Island of Misfits toys and how can they fit in with things. I mean, that's such a universal thing. And it's something that you still feel today. You know, like I identify with Hermie and with Rudolph so much more than basically the bullies that pick on Rudolph for having this red nose, or Hermie who wants to be a dentist rather than wanting to work on toys. And I don't know about you guys, but I can really see a huge gay metaphor in here. Hermie just feels like he is the gay character who's trying to fit into a hetero world.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a gay character. There is look as a bisexual man, I completely saw this character as a gay character. It was written like a gay character. It was voiced very I wouldn't say very stereotypical, but I mean, look, this was released in fucking 1964, guys. When we saw, talking about something that you and I talk about, Mike, we talk about Barney Miller. You know how the gay characters in that show are written. Very obviously gay characters. Almost to a stereotypical fault. And the Hermie character, I would say, is written very similar to other flat-out gay characters I have seen from the same time in television.
Well, but it's that. But again, it's written in that way where he's quote unquote not like the other boys because his interests are different, and there were so many ways to code that, without coming right at it. Clearly, no one was trying to make an overt point, but they were. In speaking to anyone who feels like, oh, I'm not part of the group, I feel like there is an intrinsic difference within me, then that can apply to anyone. It's sort of hard to come up with the other things that you would associate.
Trying to lose weight? It's time to try Hers. At forhers.com/4u, you can access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss treatments tailored just for you. These include oral medication kits or compounded GLP-1 injections. Through Hers, pricing for oral medication kits start at just $69 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full upfront. No hidden fees, no membership fees. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help through Hers. Get started at forhers.com/4u to access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's forhers.com/4u, forhers.com/4u. Paid for by Hims and Hers Health. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at forhers.com apply.
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Deaf Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast. and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.
In other words, the characters on Barney Miller, those two guys, they're called out as gay, and then they behave in a stereotypical way. But the challenge here is elves are, for instance, artistic, So you can't just go, oh, well, they're interested in, sports, but I'm interested in, the arts. They had to go another way and go, well, I'm just simply different because I'm actually interested in science. And then they sort of went down maybe he's just sort of one of those geeky science guys, little alleyway of storytelling. Although it is pretty clear he never ended up with a girl, and Rudolph did. So maybe that's the evidence.
We found the evidence, folks. I mean, to be fair, a lot of characters don't get romantic interests as well. I mean, Yukon Cornelius and his pickaxe.
Well, he does get the Bumble by the end.
They end up very close, yeah.
And the Bumble has no teeth by the end of this show, so, there might be some advantages to that.
Yukon Cornelius is in for a good time, if you know what I mean. He's the greatest prospector in the North, my dude. Do what?
Hermie pulled the Bumble's teeth out, so I'm thinking this was, between the three of them, this may have been a whole planned out thing.
Oh my God. Well, on the Rankin and Bass podcast, we're ruining people's childhoods, one horrifying /fic at a time.
Ooh, wait till we get to that little drummer boy.
Oh dear God. Did you guys notice, and this is something that when I was reading about this, it kept coming up and up more, skinny Santa? Because they make a point of mentioning that Santa in this Rankin and Bass TV special is skinny.
Well, he is until his wife feeds him. I think he has some sort of eating disorder.
Right. That's what it is.
Well, think about it this way. They go so far. They really, and I think a great way, push the misfit metaphor. So you can almost look at any character that way. But I mean, it's like no one wants a reindeer with a red nose. Nobody wants an elf who wants to be a dentist. Eat, Santa, eat. Nobody wants a skinny Santa. If you were a skinny Santa, you'd be a misfit. Fit in. Be fat.
I mean, pretty much. Also, Santa's kind of a dick in this. I mean, I kind of feel like a lot of the characters that essentially aren't Rudolph, Hermie, Yukon Cornelius, and the Misfit toys. Almost all these characters are very, not off-putting, but they're very mean. Like, intentionally mean to Rudolph, obviously. And to Hermie, and to kind of just... I don't know, Santa... I found Santa to be a little off-putting in the first Rankin and Bass special.
Yeah, and it's weird when you're a kid to have ambivalent feelings about Santa Claus. You sort of know in your heart it's going to change by the end, so you kind of just grit your teeth and go, well, okay. We know how the song goes, so we know how the story goes. But in years to follow, that actually almost becomes, it almost gets to be a bigger problem every year. It's like, why? Come on, you're Santa Claus. Really?
Right. You need to be the one who sees that there's a difference and embraces that. Instead, all things that are different get cast aside, and that's why we have a literal island where these misfits are kept, keep them away from the general population. We want them to be over here. And then you have, what's the guy's name? The King, who goes around.
King he's almost Moonracer.
He's like the anti-Santa. He goes around and finds toys that are misfits and then brings them back to the island.
It's a tonally bizarre piece of children entertainment because there are kind of diametrically opposed, quote, leader figures in this. And you're supposed to sympathize with Santa Claus because Santa, when you're a kid, like you mentioned, Richard, he brings you toys and he is the reason for the season, at least. I mean, the capitalist reason for the season is Santa Claus. But then you have this other character, and it's like, this is the character you want to be around. Because Santa, I mean, look, even towards the end, Santa's still a dick. The only reason he likes Rudolph is because he knows he can get something from Rudolph.
Right.
Rudolph can help me, so I like you now. It's like, where were you 10 minutes ago when you said I was a freak and I'll never pull your sleigh? A lot of foresight there, Santa. Yeah, exactly. A lot of foresight.
Well, you know what's weird about this? I don't think I've ever thought about this, but when the feeling of watching this and watching, Hermie and Rudolph and Yukon go on their adventure and make their way back, emotionally, and maybe it's just because I watched it when I was a kid, but it's that same feeling you have when you watch The Wizard of Oz. It's this sort of like, I'm in a situation where I'm being forced to put my faith in an inherently untrustworthy figure, whether it's the Wizard of Oz or it's like, because the Wizard of Oz was like, oh, we're going to see the wonderful Wizard of Oz, but every time you got there, you're like, I don't know, I'm feeling weird. And even when you meet him, you're like, there's something about this guy that's making me feel very uneasy. And it almost feels the same way with Santa. It's like, ultimately, well, I think you trust Moonracer more than you trust Santa as a kid in this special, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have, coming away from this, other than the fact that Santa has my favorite song in the special, the Jingle, Jingle, Jingle. I love that song. I don't know why. I will go to my grave loving that song. But he is not a likable character, which is funny because, we're going to be talking about some other Rankin and Bass specials on some other episodes that focus entirely on the character of Santa. And he is a much more sympathetic character in those specials. But in this one, again, this is also the first one that they did. It wasn't even known as Rankin and Bass at this point. This is Videocraft. This is the first one that they did. So to me, it's almost like they're kind of working the kinks out too with Santa, because maybe they don't know where they wanted the character to kind of fall. But he is very abrasive and not the character you want to be around.
Right. He can't stand that the elves are singing that song. I'm trying to remember which one. Like, they auditioned the song for him, and he's like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Even though the head elf is just like, wow, you guys are flat. You sound terrible. And then later on, they're singing the same song. And he's just like, oh, I can't stand that song. And I'm like, I know how you feel, Santa.
Yeah, We Are Santa's Elves is pretty bad.
When I hear Christmas carols starting like the first 3 weeks of November, I'm like, would you stop it? Just like, you get 12 days before Christmas. That's it. Just start them then. None of this horse shit of like...
Trying to lose weight? It's time to try Hers. At forhers.com/4u, you can access affordable doctor-trusted weight loss treatments tailored just for you. These include oral medication kits or compounded GLP-1 injections. Through Hers, pricing for oral medication kits start at just $69 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full up front. No hidden fees, no membership fees. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help through Hers. Get started at forhers.com/4u to access affordable doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's forhers.com/4u, forhers.com/4u. Paid for by Hims and Hers Health. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at forhers.com apply.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster. You know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week, and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
November 1st, you start playing Christmas carols.
Oh, well, yeah. First of all, yeah. Yes, November 1st. October 31st. I went to the store yesterday. I couldn't find Halloween candy because everything was shaped like a Christmas tree or a candy cane. But the other thing is, the song that they're singing is literally called "We Are Santa's Elves." They're literally singing a tribute song to Santa that he's like, would you please shut the fuck up? Why are you being so happy while you slave in my workshop? That's not a good look for Santa.
Yeah, it's a little Ivanka-ish. We were talking a little bit before about, this whole idea of I've never seen this version before, which is really strange. Like, however many years ago this special aired, it aired before I was even born, and continued to air every single year for so many years while I was growing up. And there are different versions of this, which is really strange to think about, that there was a version, the one that I saw yesterday, where Yukon Cornelius is looking for peppermint the whole time. And there's a line at the very end where he's like, I found a peppermint mine. I'm going to be rich. And I'm like, what the fuck? I never saw that before. And apparently there were versions where Santa didn't say that he was going to stop at the Land of Misfits toys first. And then there's even a full song. Like, I remember Hermie and Rudolph singing this song about fame and fortune, about how they're going to leave and they're going to get famous and have great riches. That's not there in this version. That it's the Misfits song reprised. I'm like, okay, so it was just really, it's that kind of like Mandela effect while you're watching this, going, what about that other scene? What about this? You're talking about like, where's Heat Miser and Cold Miser in this? But, they weren't necessarily part of that, but there were other things that were or were not. And now you watch and you're just like, am I crazy? I thought they sang a different song here.
Well, if you go on the Wikipedia page, there are 5 separate entries for 5 different sets of year spans where they were airing this. And within each of those is a description of how different each one was from one another. And I have only seen this several times, so I didn't even remember that there are different versions until I was starting reading about it. But good God in heaven, there are so many versions of this.
Well, but what's fascinating is that the big change was the return to the island of the Misfit toys, because there was a lot of public outcry. I mean, the special was beloved, but then people were saying, well, yeah, but within the story, they say, oh yeah, we're going to make sure that Santa comes and finally, after all these years, the Misfit toys will be taken off the island and distributed to children who will love them. But then in the original version, that payoff never happens. And people are like, wait a second, that sucks. I mean, further evidence that Santa in this version is a real prick. So they actually went back and reanimated a sequence that demonstrates that he goes and he saves those Misfit toys. And then in later versions, that was cut in. But then I guess what it means is what was lost was that beat where Yukon Cornelius accidentally discovers what he's really been searching for his whole life, which is not silver and gold, but instead a peppermint mine.
Yeah, and as it is, between Fame and Fortune as a song, the Burl Ives song of Silver and Gold, and then Yukon Cornelius, who we think, if we don't see that peppermint mine line, if we don't hear that, we think that he's searching for silver and gold. So it's like this whole, again, this capitalist thing that's going throughout this entire special.
Okay, can I ask you guys a question? I want to present an argument in my household, and I would like you guys to weigh in on that. Is that okay? It has to do with Rudolph and this exact story point. Can I run this past you?
No, sure.
Feel free, yeah.
Okay, so I've got 3 kids. Okay, my oldest kids are now in their 20s, and my youngest is 13. But my middle son, who is now 22. This is going back to his mid-teenage years. He was 15, 16. His name is Spencer, and as they were growing up, the kids would always watch these specials. And when the special, 50th or 40th anniversary version of the special came out on DVD, we bought it, and it's exactly as you described, Mike. Suddenly there's scenes that we hadn't seen before on this special restored edition. And Yukon Cornelius getting the peppermint mine. And I, being a TV writer and, of course, schooling my kids constantly every time we watch anything, I turn to Spencer and I'm like, There you go. There is a perfect example of planting and payoff. But what's weird is that when they removed the scene where he acknowledges he's been looking for a peppermint mine, when they removed that, the scenes where he's licking his pickaxe never made sense, but you didn't really question it. You're just like, well, I don't know, maybe he can taste gold, maybe he can taste silver, but clearly that's what it was. They were planting that even though he was saying he was searching for the one thing, he was really searching for the other. And maybe that makes him a misfit too. But in any case, there's your planting and payoff. He licks the thing, licks it, and the final time he licks it, he says, found what I'm looking for, a peppermint mine. And my son Spencer says, bullshit. Huh. And I'm like, well, then I struck him. Wait, no, I'm not supposed to say that out loud. Then I said, what do you mean? And we'll engage in an intellectual conversation. And he's like, well, just because he was licking the pickaxe, that's not planting. He would have had to have explicitly said, well, sure, I know as a miner I'm supposed to search for silver and gold, but what I've always really wanted is a peppermint mine, and everyone makes fun of me for that because they say it doesn't exist. And he would have had to actually declare what made him a misfit and then have that thing paid off explicitly at the end where he is proven correct and even his misfit status is exalted. And I said, no, I still think it's a case of planting and payoff. And he said, no. I now turn it over to the council. What do you say?
First, you need to cut that child in half.
Exactly. Spencer!
That's a good question because I always thought that he was searching for silver and gold and was able to taste it on his pickaxe. And without the line for so long, it just made sense that he was looking for silver and gold and never looking for peppermint. I suppose if he had said that out loud, it might have been a little too much, especially this whole, they tell me it doesn't exist, but I'm looking for it anyway. I guess that could have worked in. I guess that could have been all right, but I think it's okay without the line. Obviously, you never get the payoff. So having the line there as of like yesterday, I'll have to think about that because, I never saw him. I see him as a little bit of an outcast because it's just him wandering around. He knows a lot about bumbles for whatever reason, and just him doing his own thing. Though he has weird turns of phrase. That the one line that always sticks out for me is this fog is as thick as peanut butter. And then Hermie, you mean pea soup? And he's like, no, you eat what you like and I'll eat what I like. So he doesn't even have that same language that other people have.
Yeah, it is a little weird. It's either a case of a payoff without proper planting or just planting that never adds up to anything. Because in all the years that I saw it without the payoff, I never really questioned, why is he licking his pickaxe?
Right.
That makes it's just sort of like, it's a weird affectation he has. And yeah, like you said, maybe he can taste it. He can taste the minerals.
That's what I always thought for sure.
I just want you to know that it poisoned my relationship with my son forever, and we haven't spoken for years.
Wow. Does he still live with you, but you just don't talk to him?
Okay, that didn't happen, but if it had happened, it would have set up a lovely Christmas reunion between us where we can sit down and watch the special together, touching on those great Christmas themes of antagonistic behavior between reasonable people that suddenly resolves over the holidays. Well, I needed to lay it out before you guys because you guys know what you're talking about. So.
Oh, sure.
So based on what you said, Mike, I'm going to tell my son that you agreed with me and you think he's an idiot.
There you go. Okay, that works for me.
Perfect. Great.
I'm very curious what Rankin and Bass were up to before 64. They started their company in 60. This comes out in 64. I'm sure it took them a long time to make this. The very first special that they're doing when they're like trying to figure out this animagic style that they're doing. And we should also say that there's a long history of Rankin and Bass working with the Japanese, that their actual first time that they went out, this whole animagic process was headed by a Japanese stop-motion animator, Tadahito Mochinaga, and then that would come back later on because they worked on the King Kong versus Godzilla movie, as well as a few other Japanese produced projects. So is this kind of weird crossover between Rankin Bass and the Japanese? Or sorry, it was King Kong Escapes.
So the animagic artists were not living in America. These were artists working in Japan that Rankin and Bass were sort of sending footage to or collaborating with overseas, because in the 60s, that had to be pretty difficult.
I imagine that the Japanese were here. I think it was just headed up by a Japanese man who was mostly known in Tokyo for what his work was doing, but I'm pretty sure that they were doing the actual work over here. But they were also working with, when it comes to animation, because they were doing like weird little animated sequences, especially we'll see that in other specials. There will be like breaks for animation, and those were being done both in Canada as well as in Japan through Toei. But yeah, I think this is before all of the outsourcing of animation to Korea.
Okay, so this was not just outsourcing to Japan before outsourcing to Korea became more fiscally advantageous, right?
Right. Yeah.
They were working with guys who this was what they did. It's a really good question, because I don't know which came first. Rankin and Bass saying, "Hey, let's do." And by the way, the phrase "animagic" didn't really register on me until this last go round watching the specials. I always sort of reflexively say, "Oh, it's one of those claymation specials," because it kind of looks like Gumby, or Daisy and Goliath. It's got that same sort of move to it. But when you look at it, they're not clay. Like Rudolph is like a plush toy. He's furry. They look like they've got a whole layer of, hair, and even Hermie, I guess he looks a little clay, but Santa's got hair on his face, it's not just the Davy and Goliath kind of, Gumby style animation.
I think when it shows that it doesn't work the most is when they deal with water. Like when the fish spits at them, or when the Bumble goes in the water, and the Bumble and his hair is probably the worst looking of the stuff, but otherwise I think that it looks good. And you're right, it doesn't have that same kind of art cloaky style to it most of the time. It feels like maybe they were more like rod puppet type things, and they would move them slightly in between. The stuff that I like the most is the eyeballs, and certain characters have eyeballs and other characters don't. So like there's a few elves that have like just dots for eyeballs, and we'll see that too when it comes to Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Like the Burgermeister's second in command has just dots for eyes, whereas the Burgermeister has very expressive eyes.
Or you have someone like Donner in this TV special whose eyes are so emotive, primarily when he's surprised that his son has a red nose.
Yeah.
And it's impressive, right? Because it still looks good 50 plus years later. I mean, it really does.
Well, it's funny to me that they would take all of this stuff and play upon that in Elf and really say like, okay, we're going to have I can't remember who the narrator of Elf is because I've only seen it once at the theater, but it's that same Bob Newhart. Thank you. It's that same Sam the Snowman type narration that we have.
Well, it's so iconic. I mean, again, you have one unifying thing at Christmas time that so many people have seen, and it's these. And so, I mean, John, you got to give Jon Favreau credit. As much as I'm not a huge fan of Elf, I will contend that it is a modern, contemporary Christmas classic. It is a contemporary Christmas classic, but it also works because it does pay kind of tribute, and not really lip service, but it does pay tribute to the things that have come before it, namely the Rankin and Bass TV specials.
Well, you're getting sort of to the heart of the point, and we keep bumping up against it, but in a way it's the same thing we talked about when we did the Kolchak, the Night Stalker, the Kolchak tapes podcast. It's sort of the level of production value you will accept as a child, as opposed to revisiting it as an adult, also years in the future when the technology has far surpassed what you're looking at. You get this clash. It's like you're looking at it now and you're going, well, I can obviously see now where corners were cut and, certain things aren't consistent. And yet, as a child, you're not noticing any of that. I mean, I was so totally captivated by these things. And these were big specials. I mean, this was like, oh my God, next Tuesday night on NBC at 8 o'clock, brought to you by Revlon, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I mean, it was a friggin' event. You would talk about it at school that day, that you were going to watch it, and then you'd talk about it the next day. And no part of those conversations was ever, boy, that water sure did look weird.
Right.
we were just too into it, right?
Right, and they were inspirational. I mean, I can't imagine how many people were inspired to do stop-motion animation after watching things like this, or Gumby, or some of the other classic stop animation things.
Or how many people realize that it's okay to be different. I mean, that's for me. I mean, for me, that's the big takeaway, right? And you guys have already mentioned it, and we've kind of already talked, I think, enough about it. But, for me, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, it is a quintessential Christmas classic. It will never not be a Christmas classic. If you watch only one Rankin and Bass TV special, in my opinion, it should probably be this one, the original, because it still is so good. But yeah, I mean, for me, the takeaway is, it's okay to be different. You don't have to be the same as everybody else. You can pursue things that make you happy, even if others around you don't get it. And, I think that's an important thing. I mean, for kids and for adults.
Is it?
Is it? Wow, maybe not.
There seemed to be, and I'll talk about this more as we go through the other specials, but there seems to be sort of like two forms that the Christmas special storytelling takes. And this is like throughout everything, not just the Rankin and Bass. One is the Christmas story about the character who is typically portrayed as misanthropic, and how through the events of the story or the special, they change their ways, and they are personally transformed, and they are made sort of kind at heart, and they learn to love their fellow man. So that's version A, and then version B is a character who, for whatever reason, is the vehicle of transformation in others. And while the former sort of format, I think, is the most popular, Rudolph is the second. Rudolph is the character that causes other people to change. They are all one way at the beginning and change at the end. Hermie and Yukon are sort of his compatriots, so they don't really change. But even the Bumble changes. The Bumble turns from the most frightening character to this really friendly guy who puts the star on top of the tree. And it's like, oh, people can change, but Rudolph stands in the middle as the catalyst for that. As opposed to, Scrooge, the Grinch, characters who they themselves transform. So a lot more happens. It's not just one character who changes, like Rudolph changes the whole village of the North Pole.
Right. He's at the center of it all. It's not, to your point, he's not changing. It's the world that needs to change. It's not him that needs to change, which I like. And then in the next time that we see Rudolph, he's kind of that proselytizer of change, because 12 years after this, we get Rudolph's Shiny New Year, where he, again, is running into people having a problem with someone's physical appearance, and that is Baby New Year having too big of ears. And then he has to go around and say, he doesn't necessarily tell people that you're being bad, which maybe he should, but he's definitely, he can empathize with Baby New Year and be like, hey, listen, I've had these same problems too. I'm right there with you, Baby New Year.
Well, it also helps that Baby New Year has giant ears, which has never been part of Baby New Year up until the Rudolph Shiny New Year Christmas special.
We're getting into sort of the theme of facial deformity, which begins to haunt several of these films that we'll talk about. But yeah, big ears apparently were a major problem in the past among humans and donkeys.
So as we had Burl Ives being our narrator, main character, well, he's not a main character, narrator, side character.
The crypt keeper of the Rankin and Bass TV specials.
Yeah. In Rudolph Shiny New Year in 1976, they had Red Skelton as Father Time, and then also doing the coups of Baby New Year. Red Skelton, who was one of these people who I remember seeing part of his TV show, which I think was wildly popular. I caught up with him recently watching They Shoot Horses, Don't They, where he was... Oh, wait, no, I take that back. That's Red Buttons. Red Skelton, I know I watched his TV show, but I never really found it that funny, especially his tramp character.
Yeah. Red Skelton it was hugely popular at the height of his. I guess we're talking the 50s, I think, and it does not hold up in the way that other comedy of the past 100 years, much of which doesn't hold up, but his holds up even a little less. Yeah,
though he's fine in this. Luckily, he doesn't rely on his shtick or anything.
He's not being asked to do much either.
No, he feels a little more removed, even though he's a...
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
Character in the actual movie or special, he feels removed from it because he's not there. He narrates a little bit, but he's not on screen as Father Time that much. And this is another one I have to say, I remember the beginning of this special really super well. And I remember this whole thing of, okay, yep, there's this baby that comes. I don't necessarily know if this scientifically makes sense, but there's a baby that shows up. I guess he lives a few months before the new year, and he has to kind of take the place of the old Father Time, who throughout a year grows his entire lifetime and then retires to an island someplace. I remember all of that stuff, and I remember Baby New Year running away and the vulture that is trying to get him and those incredible cries that it has. And by the way, this was Paul Frees by this time had joined the voice cast of what Rankin and Bass were doing, so Paul Frees always a welcome voice in there. And I remember all that stuff. I remember up to the point where they said, here's the map of all these islands. Go from island to island looking for this kid. And then all of this stuff with like the 1066 or 1025 or whenever like the fairy tale land is. I don't remember any of this stuff. I don't remember the night. I don't remember Ben Franklin. I didn't remember any of that until the end of the special, and then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember this again.
Excuse me, the reason you don't remember any of this is because it's not very memorable. It all feels, I would say that this one suffers primarily because it is centered around a holiday that doesn't invoke a tremendous amount of sentimentality. And there's also not a lot of iconography that goes along with it. And you've got Baby New Year and Father Time. That's about it, unless you're going to be really, really contemporary and talk about New Year's Eve parties and resolutions and sort of what it means to the modern man. It's not a warm and fuzzy holiday like Christmas is, so there's just less to draw from. So they had to import other ideas, sort of helter-skelter, that hold together okay, but I don't need a caveman and Ben Franklin. That doesn't get me in a sentimental mood.
To be fair, a caveman and Ben Franklin is never a good way to start a sentence regarding a pseudo Christmas / New Year's TV special featuring Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I had never seen this one before, and it is shockingly strange. I mean, from the character of OM, who is a caveman. OM standing for
Maury Amsterdam.
Yeah. Who is good on the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Yeah.
But here it's weird because, like you've already mentioned, the setup doesn't leave any room for anyone involved to do anything interesting. The setup is so much like, it's essentially the Rudolph TV special we've already seen, but instead of Rudolph being the one going on the journey, Rudolph is the one bringing another character on the journey that he's already gone through. And it's not particularly compelling, frankly.
Because what is at stake is a very sort of practical thing. It's like, oh no, the new year won't come and something bad will happen and time will stop if this vulture... and again, sort of creating this sort of like, oh, is the vulture, is that a thing? Are we all supposed to know about this? That there's some big weird bird that wants to stop time or something? And
it felt like it escaped from like Mayan mythology or something. I was like, what? Where is this?
That's the Quetzalcoatl, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, right. 2012, we're all going to die?
It looks like that one bird. I'm trying to remember the name of the film, but there is a older... like creature feature film from either the 50s or 60s, and the bird in this movie, the vulture in this film, looks just like it.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. It was in, it came from Hollywood, a clip of it. And yeah, it's got like a really long neck. And
beak, yeah, and a long beak. Yeah. You know exactly that's exactly what the vulture in this looks like, and I couldn't stop seeing it every time it was on screen. And also, what is kind of shocking about this special is... it's not, again, it has some weird ideas. I mean, you have, again, Ben Franklin and cavemen and everything else, but it's also an hour long, and it is very, very, very slow. The music is not very good. And it's, honestly, it feels just it feels half-baked. It feels completely half-baked.
There's not one song in this that I remembered from any other time. I was just like, what? Until they have to stop the entire thing and be like, I'm Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You know the song, and then boom, it's like cut to the animated version. It's like, what? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yes, we do know the song, so you don't have to play it for us. Thank you. Like, not to be a cynical dick, but like, I know that you need to chew up 4 minutes of this TV special, but you don't have to play Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer again.
So bad.
This whole special is bad. This is really, like, I hate to say it, but this is really bad. Paul Frees, who you've already mentioned, Mike, he can't salvage it. He really can't.
No. Though it was funny having Don Mesnick in here doing the voice of the Papa Bear as well as a few other voices, and he sounds so Scooby when he's doing the Papa Bear voice.
Yes, he does. That leaps out. I love that. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, again, I'm going to cut them some slack and just say that they were given seeds and stems to work with when someone said, "Okay, but you got to make it about New Year's Eve."
Right, and it's got to be an hour long with commercials.
Yeah, and it's and the entire theme is about time. So not one person watching this is going to forget for 1 second how long this thing is. Yeah, it's pretty rough sledding.
And as somebody living through 2020, the idea of Eon stealing the Baby New Year and keeping it the same year forever, I felt very attacked by this.
I felt personally attacked by the idea that 2020 might continue past December 31st, 2020.
Lousy smarch weather.
This was a macro aggression. This was, yeah, that's great. Oh God.
Look, you know, the other kind of thing that does need to be kind of mentioned, and you've already kind of mentioned it a little bit, Mike, is this comes out so much longer after the last one. This one comes out 13 years after the first one. And I mean, at this point, this is being released. This is Rankin Bass. This is not Videocraft or whatever they were originally known as when they released the first Rudolph. I mean, this is Rankin Bass. They had already made, up until this point, they had made A Year Without Santa. They had made Little Drummer Boy, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I mean, they'd already worked on a bunch of other things, so it's like, Jesus, guys. Like,
yeah. It feels like they're running on fumes. To your point, the stems and seeds, this definitely feels like that. It's like, just stick Rudolph in there. We need a protagonist. Stick Rudolph in there, because it could have been anybody. It really, other than like the moment when, and I forgot that it's the trees that sing the song of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Other than that, it could have been any protagonist. I mean, could have been her.
Well, it had to be a protagonist with a physical deformity.
That's true.
So it could have been Nestor. I mean, it really could have been Nestor.
Yeah. But Nestor was still a year away.
That's true, which is a shame. But, I mean, again, to your point, Richard, I mean, they kind of go on this weird kind of obsession with physical deformities, which, I mean, I completely understand for some respects, because kids understand that implicitly. Like, you know, right. A small child will understand, oh, I've got big ears. That might be something as a child, I'm self-conscious of. But, you know, it is, because that is the well that they keep going back to, it does really stand out, because it's like, well, as an adult, I know that there are other things. His ears don't define him, but when you're a kid, I mean, I completely get it. You know, if you're a kid, you know, you think you're ugly because you got big ears or big teeth. You know, kids are cruel.
Well, to jump back to Rudolph for a second, I mean, it like for a while there, it was always like, well, you know, Rudolph can't help it. He was born with a red nose. So, you know, sorry, you got hit with the red nose stick. Hermie just happens to prefer dentistry to working in Santa's workshop. And so there was always that moment where it's like, well, I mean, you know, Hermie can, you know, he has not been burdened with something. He just wants to pursue his dream more than he wants to be a salaryman in Santa's, you know, eternal cubicle. But then when you talk about it being coded as a sort of a metaphor for homosexuality, then you start veering back. Well, no, he was born with an interest in dentistry that others may find distasteful. You know, but it's not just a matter of choice, and then you can argue it the other way. So yeah, the problem here with the New Year one is that the baby is not a very engaging character. He doesn't talk. It's hard to work up anything more than intellectual sympathy, because okay, I get it. We're supposed to feel bad for him because he has big ears. But I don't know if those feelings I don't know if I ever identified with Baby New Year in the way I identified with Rudolph.
And it felt like that's what they were hoping for. They were hoping for you to identify with the character in the similar way. And by adding Rudolph to the equation, it might be quote unquote easier to get that sympathy because you already have a character that you've already identified with.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it feels like a shame because again, the Rudolph character in the first film is so good and so well thought out and well fleshed out, and then here, you know, it's called Rudolph's Shiny New Year, and Rudolph, yeah, sure, Rudolph's in this, but Rudolph doesn't do anything. And there's nothing memorable here for Rudolph to do. So, like you said, Mike, as long as it's someone who has a physical deformity, you could have put anybody. Why? And proximity to Christmas must be what's driving it, because, I mean, again, I guess if the New Year were closer to Easter, it could have been the Easter Bunny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if Easter were in January, you could have done the Easter Bunny. Because, again, it's also proximity to the holiday, right? I mean, why else are they bringing up Rudolph when it comes to New Year's if Rudolph is a Christmas character?
Again, trying to follow the thematic logic of everyone laughs at your ears, therefore, if we can make the antagonist also laugh at your ears, somehow that's going to be the path to the solution of our plot problem, which is either brilliant or totally wrong-headed. I can't tell. It feels simple and sort of like, wait, what? We're just going to make the bad guy laugh. We're going to evoke another bad quality out of the bad guy, but the laughter alone will make him a happier character who is now no longer a threat. But that's not what it was for everyone else who was mean and laughed at it. I don't know. I'm getting. If I think about it any longer, I'll never leave this year. Perhaps it's time to move on.
Well, with that, let's just say thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to us on your favorite platform medium. We will be back with another episode next week, all about the adventures of Santa Claus.
So, Mike, when we're not doing episodes of Rankin Bass, where can people find you?
You can find me over at the Projection Booth Podcast, which is at projectionboothpodcast.com. And how about you, Chris?
You can find me on Twitter at casualty_Chris and on the other movie podcast that I do, The Culturecast. You can find that at culturecast.com. What about you, Mr. Haddam?
I've been writing and producing episodes of DC Titans for the last 3 years. We're now doing season 3, but season 1 and 2 are currently available on HBO Max. And season 3 will premiere in July 2021.